conversation here on Off the Grid. Big Fred, Brayden, I'm having a great time as a host right now. Like, y'all have no idea. I'm having a really, really good time. Because I've actually never done 3 guests on my podcast at one time before. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. I did it on Vibe Central one time, but I've never done it on this. I'm out here, y'all. Like, I'm really out here.
Congrats, man.
All right, I'm really hurt. So, I think it's very important to know that, like, however you do it, you still have to lift and encourage. And Brayden, to your point, and I'm gonna get to your point in a second, but to your point, I always realize, and I guess this ties into both of it, that words have power. What I'm gonna say, whatever it is that I say, I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna say it with my chest. It's your response to how you take it. So
Shameless plug, say it with your chest. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That is my only rule in this podcast.
I'm
telling
saying,
you,
you know what I
that's
mean?
the only rule in this podcast. If you're gonna say it with your chest. But I've always been like that though, and even as far as like, I've been raised in church my entire life. In church and out of church, there's always been the one principle that's been consistent, is that words have power. So whatever you do say, can make or break somebody. But I realized that, like, being in rooms full of adults and hearing, and I've been on both sides of the spectrum, right? Like, I've been in rooms where adults have told me, oh, you're so mature for your age, or you're so this, or you're so that. And I've been in the other rooms where it's like, oh, you only 17. Like, you don't know nothing about life. You don't know nothing about life. So I'm old soul at heart. Like, I'm 17, but I have, like, the mind and soul and everything else of, like, probably, like, we working on, like, 72. So I'm being so serious. We're working on, like, 72. So
you was born in, like, 58. Somebody tell me if I got my
Yo,
math right.
is that right? Is that right?
You said, no, it's been 74. But go ahead, bro. You do it.
It's got to be. You did it.
It's close.
It's close enough.
City school.
But it's one of those things where
Don't play with it.
it's one of those things where it's like, I've been in rooms with people that have either told me that I talk too much or that I don't talk enough.
Right.
And what I've taken from that is, whatever I'm gonna say, you are responsible for how you feel about it. I said it. It's out there. I can't take it back. So my responsibility with that is to also understand that, like, what do I say? Mm-hmm. What do I say? Go back to lifting and encouraging. What do I say? Am I saying something that somebody would take offensive? Like, you know how, like, when I speak, like, my brain's 1,000 miles a minute, because I'm always like, okay, every word that comes out of my mouth is important. Mm-hmm. Even if it's not really, it is. So I realized that being in rooms with older people, or being in rooms with adults, or whatever you want to call them, is that some adults didn't have the language to express what we can express, but they're trained to not express it. They didn't have the language to express it, but they didn't know what it is that they wanted to express and didn't know they needed to express. But the training of it all is, they can't. They were trained not to. They were trained not to say that thing. They were trained not to do that thing. They were trained not to go that place, or they were trained not to open it. Now, and I really hate this, but sometimes being raised in church, you see a lot of, like, unspoken rules. Not just church, but, like, in general, you see unspoken rules, things that you, like, it's unspoken, but you probably know you shouldn't do it. And so when somebody, like, I had to accept the fact that I'm gonna do it. Like, I had to accept the fact that I'm one of those people that's just gotta learn the hard way. And people are like, well, you're gonna do this and you're gonna fail and you're gonna do this. A lot of the stuff that they said I'm gonna do and fail at, I've done. And I've done it and done it well. And if I fail, I can admit that I failed. Like, that's not a hard thing to do. But it's one of those things where I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm not gonna be that kid that conforms to that. I'm not going to be that person. And we thank God for rules and regulations. We thank God just then. We thank God for rules and regulations. That's all well and good, but at the end of the day, there is so much of a world that we haven't seen. And I feel like that's what, and I hate this phrase too, that's what my generation wants to do, is we want to go the distance. And I feel like they're afraid of going the distance. So they're just like, oh, you keep on living. That's not going to work for you. Says who?
Well, I always say I feel like each generation is a heightened sense of consciousness.
So it's each
That's good to think
generation,
about.
like just mentally, I feel like can expand in thought, right? Especially at younger ages. So it was the same way for me. I remember standing around some of my older just people in my life, telling them that I was going into entrepreneurship and what I was doing in comedy, and they like, look. So they just used to working and hands-on and later, and they like, bro, that's not gonna work. Like you better
need
go
a
get you a
backup plan.
job
Yeah,
and just leave
you
it
need a
alone.
solid,
You
stable
know what I
plan.
mean? But so many of my peers within this generation, within that extended aspect of consciousness, was like, bruh, that's what we doing
do this.
too. Let's get it. You can do it too. You know what I mean? And now, our job within that, because we all are still teachers. I learned so much from youth. I learned so much from younger people in these schools. I'm happy and proud and honored to say that I had the opportunity to do that. So other people and adults and teachers need to see youth and students as teachers, beacons of education and enlightenment, and not just students or people to kind of rein in or around or lead in that aspect, right? So I love these revelations and these learned experiences because of Little Laughs. It's a direct platform to kind of be the walking example in that, right? It's a proof of concept. So if I'm telling teachers in the training that we need to be more receptive and allow ourselves to be educated from youth, but I'm actually infusing that method into my program and it has positive outcomes, I have way more conviction hiring that teachers. But if it's just something that I really feel in my chest and I say it with my chest, it may not have that same outcome.
I think that's very important. It's one of those things where we got to realize that nowadays it's each one teach one. So yes, we may be learning skills and concepts and all that kind of stuff from teachers. That's great. We need those concepts in life. Teachers can still learn from people. Like teachers can learn from us young folk. And I hate that phrase too. Am I the only one that hates that phrase?
Young folk? I just hate folk.
Yeah, that's too. That's too. I hate young folk. I hate our generation. And what's another one? There's like 5 more.
It's a lot.
There's
There's
like 5 more.
When I hear it, it'll just like.
And you just gotta like smile and nod. This is like, yeah.
I love it. Like, what?
Like, thank you, I appreciate.
I hate the young people. Like, I'm
Oh,
already
yeah,
a noun.
that's one.
How you gonna? Don't make me like a triple noun. Like the young people. Like the young people. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And then they do this thing
or
where
you young people. Felt like I did something wrong. You young people. Like, yo, what we do? Like
whoa.
You good?
And then one thing I think is like really, really funny that I think it's funny. Like I don't hate it, but I think it's funny. Is like when a new trend or something comes out, like adults literally will try their hardest to like be hip. Hate that word too. What is it? It's hip and it's something else.
Right. Relevant.
Trendy. Yeah.
Relevant. Relevant I can deal with.
Trendy.
Is it trendy?
I don't like that word.
You like trendy?
No.
Yeah, I can do
Or
it.
like they find everything that's wrong with it. Like, oh, you haven't seen that trend? I don't know if y'all on TikTok, but like on the trend on TikTok, I'd be like, the experts say this is wrong because da 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 da. Y'all shouldn't be like be in the ocean because I don't know people live there. Like,
Well, let me address hip real quick. It's not bad when you come from a space of vulnerability. So all my adults that's watching, we appreciate y'all support, appreciate City School, support TV. It's not bad if you admit that you need to get hip. Vulnerability, you gotta be honest. But if you walk around telling young people that you hip, it's corny. Like you can't walk around like, oh, I'm hip to that. Oh, I'm hip. I'm already hip. But if you tell them vulnerably, like, man, I need to get hip. Can you get me hip to this? You get what I'm saying? Ain't no young person gonna be like, hip, what's hip? But if you walk in the room, kicking the door, waving full force, you like, yo, I'm hip, man. I'm already hip. They gonna look at you like, you crazy. You know?
It's automatic. It's automatic. Yeah.
Gonna take his hat off. Hey, yo.
It's automatic.
I know the biggie, bro. All right, go ahead.
No. But I think that's very important, and I think that comedy does that, and I think as far as comedy gives language.
Yeah.
We don't address it for what it is. Comedy is art. Yes, it is. It's expressive, because like I always say that like comedians are crazy in real life, but no, they are. Like this is what they think. This is what they know. This is what they do. But this is what they do. But it's just like they're now expressing it. Like we think it's funny, but this is what they think on a daily basis. And it's like, it's funny, it's hilarious. And this is why we can appreciate that, is because it's expressive.
Yeah.
Like comedy is expressive in itself. So I want to know, like, how long have you been doing comedy?
I started comedy in 2000. I always say 2013.
2013. Oh, so you're not.
Yeah, been doing comedy for a minute now.
Been doing comedy for a minute.
Yeah.
So like when you do show, how do you prepare for that stuff? When you do your shows or when you host events, how do you prepare for that?
Well, I mean, it ranges. A lot of time it can be studying material or writing, right?
Writing material.
A lot of times it can just be being observant to different scenes or current events or things that's important to you, things that you find yourself passionate about or just intrigued by. Oftentimes, man, I don't know if you've ever heard or used like the 6 degrees of separation. We usually aren't thinking about things by ourselves. You know, even if you're thinking about it in a group of 6 people and the other 5 aren't, that means the next group of 6 people, a couple people are. You know what I mean? So what comedians are able to do is observe and articulate, you know, their take on things, and it catches with people because of that 6 degrees of separation, right? So in my preparation, it's always just kind of not trying to create something that people will care about that I don't, but trying to find what I care about that I can relate in a way where it can spark the interest that other people may have in it. So someone may not care at all about politics, but they might care about believing in things that you don't fully know if they're gonna have a positive outcome or not. They might care about how much their family cares about politics or watches the news, right? They might care about certain things like that. So you just learn the nuance and how to really just communicate what's going on with you. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of big words than it can be, but at the end of the day, it's still just sharing your experience, expressing yourself, and just bringing light to people, making people laugh. It's educating too. Comedians are like weathermen and women, also like entertainers, of course, jesters almost, but we are very informative as much as we are funny too.
And
I
people
think
want to know
politicians,
that.
uncensored politicians. That's what I think a comedian is, an uncensored politician.
Please expound on that. I like it.
I feel like they do say stuff that politicians like want to say.
Yeah, well, everybody wants to say it's just that they can say it because they funny.
That's true.
I can't say it though. They be like, "Who are you?" But if somebody else say it, be like, "Oh, that's funny."
Like that's so
Right.
funny.
But like for real though, like on Twitter, you like actually talk about it. But like in person, it's like, "Oh, that was funny."
That was comedians are uncensored politicians. I've actually never heard of that.
Now, laughter, so what I learned, I'll tell y'all this real quick. So I learned that laughter, the ability to laugh, is a scientific formula behind that, right? So when you have relatability and then you add irony, they say that it kind of sparks you to laugh. So if you like see somebody walking down the street and then they trip, you might laugh. You might, but it's not because you wanted that person to trip and you just wanted to always see that person trip. You can relate possibly what it feels like to either trip before, what it feels like to walk, and now you seen something ironic, so it just sparked your mind. You like, oh, you know what I mean? Hopefully you wait to make sure they okay. But if it's a natural thing, right, that just kind of hits you, oftentimes that's the formula for laughter. So when you look at our lives as far as expression, it is a lot of relatable things added with irony. But then when you look at life, what is life but not things that all of us can relate to, but the irony that adds the unique nuance that makes me different from you and you different from me. We've all can say we lived on earth, but the irony is what makes our stories different. And when we tell each other those stories with the relatability parts and the ironic parts, we're gonna laugh at each other's stories.
We're gonna laugh.
I promise you, we're gonna laugh at each
Yeah.
other's stories. No matter the fact that you are coming out of high school and I'm my age, like no matter none of that, you know what I mean? We're gonna have a good time. So that's something that again we benefit from allowing people to learn and embrace that as well.
I don't think stand-up or comedians in general, I don't think they get enough credit as artists.
I agree.
I don't think they get enough credit as artists because I feel like it is just as much as an art form as every other form.
Yeah, I agree. It's just that. So I always say like, you can sing, you can sing.
Right.
Everybody think they can sing, but when you know when you can sing, now hopefully most people. With comedy, the response to a lot of good jokes, you know, is laughter. Like it's comedy. So what happens is everybody is funny. Everybody can't sing, but everybody can make somebody laugh. So you can lose an appreciation for the art form because you think that you can do that too. But I've had plenty of people that tell me they the funny person, they want to get on stage and hit the mic since I started, especially in the beginning, where I would give them a mic, no problem. Because I was annoyed. I was just starting bringing people out. So people was like, somebody was talking too much at my show and I had to keep asking them to be quiet. At the end, I would have moments to bring different people on stage. I make them come on stage, give them a mic, man, you gotta go. And 9 times out of 10, it might have been 1 or 2 out of like a lot of people that actually did it and was funny. But most of the people, once they get on that mic, they like, they just freeze up. So the professional comedian is the one with the nuance to articulate, stand tall, and actually entertain, not just somebody to be funny.
Like just
Because the funniest person in the world is somebody's uncle.
I don't think comedians get enough credit as artists.
Right.
And I don't think stand-up comedy gets enough credit as an art form. Like, it really is an art form, because you're still, I mean, essentially, you're still doing everything. Like, you're bringing things that need to come to light, but funny. Yeah. But I feel like people will look at it as like, I feel like that's why people get offended, though, is because, like, you know how, like, you shouldn't touch topics? Because, you know, there are some comedians that are just like nobody is safe. So I feel like it's one of those things where, like, that's why I feel like sometimes people get offended because, like, oh, maybe you shouldn't touch that topic in this specific light. But I feel like you should talk about it, though.
I did an interview with one of the news outlets when it was the Chris Rock, Will Smith thing, and they were asking me, like, that I feel like comedians had, you know, different responsibilities to their content and things like that, like, was anything, like, off-limits type stuff. And I really feel like it's not. In my answering of that question, I did tell them, though, that I felt like comedy has evolved over the years, meaning you can't say things now, per se, that you could say 50 years ago, or do things that you could do 40 years ago. So I believe two things can be true. I got a lot of flack on YouTube. You talking about bullying? Hold on, let me look at the camera. Y'all talking about bullying? I remember I woke up the next day and got on YouTube, and it was like 600 comments, because the way they cut it up all crazy and heavy. Man, I had to stop going to the YouTube page, bro. I was like addicted to seeing these negative comments. A lot of people was like, yo, what are you talking about? He ain't never be funny today. And they're like, well, I was funny yesterday. Like, it kind of messed me up. So I say all that to say that it's just a lot of different opinions when it comes to it. I feel like certain words and things may need to go through an evolution phase, right? Because, I mean, it's pretty plain as day. We have certain words that are triggered, certain words that have became politically incorrect just because of how much it can make certain groups of people feel. But when you talk about natural experiences of life, you shouldn't feel like you have to bury that for anyone's, you know, appeasement. You know what I mean? You should be able to respectfully share your truth, even if that's your perspective. Now, when you talk about targeting people and being malicious and attacking people, that's one thing. But if you're really expressing yourself, and then you're sharing your opinion about a certain space, race, XYZ, I personally don't feel like that's anything wrong with it.
Because no other art form is censored like that. Like, when it comes to talking about issues, people, I mean, like, you may not understand what they're saying because it's like their interpretation of it, but like they're definitely putting their opinion on it. Like musicians all the time, like rappers, singers all the time. Like, it's just that their audiences don't really care because they got a lot of clout. Like, if Beyonce made a song saying like, I hate the color blue, there will be like 20,000 people saying they hate the color blue.
They hate the color blue now.
Like, but you know, I feel like that's cool because she can say what she want to say. But you know, I feel like if it's somebody else where they're on a bigger platform, I don't know, not a bigger platform, but like a more vulnerable platform where they don't have as much clout as Beyonce or as much respect, if you want to say, then it's definitely not.
And I'll let you know, in my opinion, and this is a new thought too. So shout out to the show, because y'all getting a whole new ever thought. Like, it just hit my head just now. I don't think that there's any comedians really or comedic content that suggests you to do something. I think in most situations, almost all comedians are expressing themselves. There's certain songs and other things where it's kind of telling you to carry it like this. Like, yo, go do this to yo, or go do this to her. If you got a problem with this, carry it like this. You know what I mean? Comedy is always opinion based to the person's opinion. You know what I mean? So I think that's something to keep in mind as well. Within the art form, I don't think there's much direction in comedy. Just the ability to inform and share. You know?
It's all about influence, though. Like, I feel like in whatever art that you're gonna do, like whether it be stand-up comedy, whether it be music, whether it be, you know, acting, poetry, whatever, it's all in the influence. Like, whoever your audience is, like, your art attracts people. Essentially, that's what art is. It brings people into a sense of relatability. Sometimes, like, art makes make people feel something, like whatever, like stand-up comedy, make people laugh. Music can do all kinds of, and I love every type of music except country. I don't like country music. I can't sing.
I heard a couple country songs. It was all right. I said, okay. Oh, see,
I am too.
What you like, a cooking? You just said you don't like country, bro.
You know what? Dolly Parton is the only country artist I listen to.
Oh man, I gotta hear some Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton is the only country song, like only country artists I listen to.
Shout out to Dolly.
If she ever see this, or if she ever see this, and I really want her to see this too.
I don't know if people call her Dolly. I never heard somebody call her first name without her last name. That's just one of the
Dolly
people you
Parton.
gotta say at the same time. Yeah.
We have respect for Dolly.
Absolutely.
Yes, if she's
I,
seeing this, please contact me. Just come natural.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to
Dolly, you
Dollywood.
heard her. Holla at her, Dolly.
Literally.
Holla at her. Give her some recipes
Also,
too.
I'm trying to go to Dollywood, so you got that.
Dolly. Wow.
I want to go there so
She
bad.
has a location.
Dollywood is a whole, like, it's a dinner theater, it's an amusement park, it's a resort, and it's hers.
Shout out to Dolly World, man. We all pulling up, man. On City Schools, we gonna be all outside.
City Schools trip.
That's a nice trip, bro.
That would be so cool.
Put the pressure on them. Let's make it make sense.
Boom!
Come on,
Idea!
Man. World tour
Yeah, that would be so cool.
to Dolly World.
To Dollywood. Like a road trip tour.
Little Lass can go to. We'll go to. We gonna chaperone this.
That'd be real nice. But back to a little bit like into the influence. You gotta understand, like, and I guess it ties back into bullying too. Like, bullying, innate in its influence. Bullying and essentially is influence because you're, just like you said with the example of Beyonce. Now she made somebody feel something, or made somebody, like, even a feeling that might originally not have been there. They may have liked Blue before Beyonce said. But I realize that people do a thing, like when somebody that they really look up to, or somebody like in their circle, like in their daily sphere of life, when I feel like their opinion matters more than we think it does, actually. And I think influence is one of those, and I think bullying, of course, is a negative influence, but I also think, like, now all of us are like, wow, it causes you to feel something. And it causes you to sit there and look like, oh, dang, like, am I that thing? Am I what they're telling me that I am? Do I deserve to be treated this way? And I feel like you said earlier, an abuse of power. An abuse of power. Like, you gotta be careful with, like, certain power comes, I mean, what is it? Like, is it with great power
Responsibility.
comes great responsibility, yeah. And I think that can play into here.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
like,
One last thing, and then I promise, like, I'm gonna be done.
we all
It's
gonna
a
be
good
done.
topic.
Trust
Y'all
me.
been doing great.
We all gonna be
Y'all
done.
been doing
Trust me.
great.
But, like, I just want any art form, any influence of anything, because, you know, art is everywhere, and it's the biggest influence in the world, in my opinion. I think, do not be fooled by what people are talking about in their music, in their art, in their theater performances, in their songs, in their comedy shows. Like, be yourself. Like, no matter what their opinion is, do not be fooled by somebody else's reality. And, like, don't let their pressure or people's fan bases pressure you into feeling like, or bully you into feeling like you have to be that. So, be yourself.
Live in your truth. Like, be you. There are people that, and this is a real, I guess, like, life tip. There are people that aren't gonna like you. And that is completely okay. There are people that aren't gonna like the art that you do. They have the choice to go elsewhere. Please visit www.baltimorecityschools.org/bullying. That is www.baltimorecityschools.org/bullying for more information and resources on what to do if you experience bullying, sexual harassment, or discrimination. We got resources. We got you. I enjoyed this so much.
I did too.
I enjoyed this so much. Like, this is a cloud nine. I keep saying it, but this is honestly like a cloud nine host moment for me.
Yeah.
Like, I've wanted to do this kind of conversation, to have this comment and be real, because I was definitely like free balling for like 15 minutes.
Oh, you did your thing. And we still rolling? We still rocking? Yeah, I want to let all of the students know, everyone that can hear us, that tap in with us. If you are going through anything that is consistent with any feeling of bullying, a lot of times, depending on age, depending on where you're from, you feel like you can't identify with being bullied, right? Like, that make you soft for something, or you know, just anything along those lines. But I promise you, you deserve all good feelings. You deserve to feel safe, secure, happy, especially in schools, especially in your neighborhood. So make sure you do anything possible within your constraints to get help, seek help, and receive the help when you're going through anything that feels like bullying or any other type of abuse. 100%. We are here for you. Follow Lil Labs. They should be somewhere on the screen. They're gonna do their thing on the post editing. Shout out to the team. And make sure you just keep following the guys, man. Support them and everything that they're doing as well.
Big Fred, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
This was great. Brayden, thank you.
Thank you guys. This was really
You,
good conversation.
this is encouragement now. You
And you.
and you, and you are great, okay? You, your authentic self, is what people come to love, what people come to know, what people come to appreciate. You. Be you. Live your truth, dog. It's okay. We got you. And with that, we appreciate City Schools TV, Inner Circle Legends Production Studio, Mukad Media, I think I said that right, for producing this project. Thanks again to our special guest for joining me today. Oh, I'm so happy about this right now. I'm so happy about this. Make sure you follow us on IG at City Schools TV. Ooh, new Instagram page.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. Run it up. Run the followers up,
City Schools
y'all.
TV. Y'all heard it. Go ahead and subscribe to Baltimore City Schools District on YouTube. Like us on Facebook and follow us on YouTube for more content. Shout out to 1500 Radio for providing this space and allowing me to showcase this project. And with that, these have been your announcements. Govern yourselves accordingly.
Say it with your chest.
Whole chest, okay?